Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Life. You can get it on Amazon. And I am host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And my guest today is Kathleen Peterson.
Thank you.
Kathleen Peterson is a human performance coach, or rather Muse, who works with successful professionals. These high-powered professionals have invested a lot to create fabulous careers and now want to experience that success across every area of their life. These dedicated people can sometimes be unintentional workaholics who are now ready to transform their overextended lives into calm, productive, balanced platforms from which to launch their passion projects and create the life of their own choosing. Kathleen knows that with the right guide, any time stretched, phenomenally productive but frustrated professional will get into action on their greatest passions and remain focused on bringing their gifts to enrich the world. Well, I know a lot of people, including me, who are like that. We're doing our best to create a life that we love and enjoy the things that we have, but that workaholism keeps popping up.
Right. So many people feel like they just don't have enough time to stretch everything they got to stuff into it every day, so yeah.
That is true. So why don't you tell us about you and how you started out and how you got to be doing what you're doing now?
Well, that's many twists and turns, but I started out, going in deaf education when I was in college, and really thought that I wanted to be a teacher of people with that challenge in their life. And I found that it wasn't a good fit for me. So I realized later that I was supposed to be an educator, but it was an educator of adults. It was not an educator of youth, the children. So I pivoted right away. Right in college, I pivoted right away. And then, I went into many different sales professions and things like that, and found that I had certain innate strengths, just like anybody else does. You have certain things that you're really good at and certain things that you're not. And I eventually ended up in some personal development courses and realized that at that time I was selling radio advertising, so basically selling air. And I found that while it was a lot of fun, it was a great industry, I also found that it didn't feel like it was making enough of an impact on the world. It wasn't changing lives. It wasn't a big enough contribution. And I felt like I had more to do with my life than that, and so I started out doing coaching, but the coaching was for personal organization. I helped busy professionals streamline their workflow and create color-coded files and build the right kind of structure to do what they wanted to get accomplished every day. And I had a lot of fun with it, but it was also tiring. It was very exhausting. And then I got certified in a tool from the Center for Applied Positive Psychology out of the UK. And it's a strength profile. And when I did that, I love this tool, because it gives you not only your strengths and weaknesses, we all know what those are, right? But it gives you an access to two other quadrants that are hidden from view, so to speak. So one is your unrealized strengths, things you're really, really good at and don't even know you are, that it's playing out over here kind of under the surface someplace. And then another one is what they call learned behavior. And the learned behavior is the things that you think and everyone around you thinks is a strength because you do it so well. But at the end of the day, you're exhausted. And that's how I was about organizing. I was exhausted at the end of the day. So it wasn't a natural innate strength for me. And I did not know that. And I've been doing it for 15 years. So I realized at that point that it was my parents' strength. Both of my parents were very productive, very organized. They got a lot done every day. My mom is still alive at almost 92. And she still thinks if she doesn't get a whole lot done every day, she hasn't done enough. And I'm like, Mom, take a break. It's okay. You paid your dues, but she still wants to be productive. So anyway, I realized that I needed to pivot once again. And that's when I shifted my coaching into human performance. The colloquial term was coach, but I found that I wasn't like a sports coach, not the you rah rah and not cracking a whip or anything like that. It was more of a nurturing approach that I took to it, because I believe that when people really find all the tools that they need and all of the structure that they need to have built around that they just naturally produce what they want to produce. It's not hard. It's certainly not rocket science. So I developed over 60 practices to help people to do that. And I've been doing my coaching, or what I call Muse work, because I inspire people to get in action about what they're really passionate about and still have productive lives, but this time with more balance. Work, life, play, and rest are all in balance. And people then actually go out and produce way more because they have that balance. So that's how I ended up to this. And it was not a straight line, definitely. It was definitely circuitous.
Yes, definitely. And some of the things you talked about resonated with me. I mean, I found that years ago, I had an incident where my dad was in a bad car accident, and
Oh,
that made
sorry.
me, we didn't know if he'd make it, and it made me really look at my life. And I went from working like 6 days, sometimes 7 days a week, and I had 3 little kids, and I just cut it down to 4, just from one day to the other. I'm like, I'm just going to
Wow.
work 4 days a week.
Right.
And then take care of myself, take care of my kids, enjoy my life. So I thought, man, anybody can be gone anytime. And the funny thing is, I had a private practice at the time that I became busier and made more money working 4 days a week than I
Wow.
was
Good for you.
working 6 days a week.
Yep.
It doesn't make sense, but it works.
Yeah. It's interesting. I really believe that that was almost like a gift. I mean, it was terrible that your father had the accident, but it was a gift to let you see that you were spinning your wheels, probably doing a lot of work that didn't need to be happening. And you thought you did. You actually believed it. Otherwise, you would have been doing it, right? But once we realize, oh my gosh, it doesn't have to look this way. It can look how I want it to look. It's amazing how much more you can get done with less effort. Just amazing.
That is so true. So how do we arrange our time so that everything just fits in and flows?
Well, there's a couple things that two practices right out of the gate that I do with every client. And that is, you need to go hunting for the hidden from view, because there's usually something that's derailing your time that you don't know is doing it. And so the two practices that helps to reveal several of these things, and the key ones anyway, is something I call your profitable practice. And that is, there are things you do every day that when you do them, everything turns out. Life is working the way it's supposed to. And you have a natural rhythm, and it's not hard. It just flows. Those days when you just feel like you're on top of the world and you got a lot done. And those practices, most people never take a look at. They never even identify that they're there. So they play when they play. And then when you get derailed, and you don't even know that you have been until it's too late. And all of a sudden things are falling through the cracks. So that's the one practice that I work with people on. And then the other thing that I work with people on is something I call your Achilles heel obstruction. And there's always that one little thing that derails you. And it's not necessarily rocket science. I have a whole list, like a page and a half of these examples of what could be your Achilles heel. But some of the most common ones are, you remember the movie Up, where the dog goes squirrel, like going off to like the next shiny object. So that's one of the most common ones. People get distracted because we're in a world of information. It's overloading us. It comes at us like a fire hose, not like a garden hose. So there's so many choices. It's like, which way do I turn first?
Mhm.
So that's one of the most common. And the second most common is one that I have been afflicted with, and that is the one more thing syndrome, I call it. And that's, oh, I can get one more thing done. Oh, I can do one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. And all of a sudden you're 15 minutes late to an appointment
I
because you
am so familiar with that one.
yeah, Yeah.
Yes.
So I help people to identify what their Achilles heel is, and it may be more than one. It's likely one big one. There's usually something. For some people, it's procrastination. I, ascribe to eating your frogs, as one of the pros and experts has mentioned, wrote a book on. But anyway, so those are the most common things that I help people to that's the starting point to start to figure out how to turn your time around. And then there's a lot written on time management, but I have an article I'm coming out with right now that's time management is BS because there is no managing time. Time just exists and it's a made up phenomenon. So it's more our interpretation of time. And usually it's impacted by what we're trying to get done and what we feel like we have to do, because it's the obligation and the responsibility that burdens us and makes us feel like we're not getting done what we really are passionate to do. So anyway, that'll be coming out shortly, and you'll be able to get it on my website soon, within the next week.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I think part of it's also just how you exist in the world. So there are some people that they're always early to everything. They're early or on time, but more early. And then there's people like me that I think I just am in the moment I'm in, and they really don't pay attention to time. So for example, when I set my alarm in the morning to get up, I don't just set the wake up alarm. I set the wake up alarm, and then I set the alarm for every 15 minutes until I have to leave the house. And I know that last 15 minutes, I better be ready because I am so easily distracted and I'm not very fast in the morning. Same thing. I could just do one more thing. Oh, I could just throw this load of laundry in before I go to work.
Right.
I can do this one more thing. I just think I can do one more thing. And that's why that timer keeps me on schedule. And it sounds maybe a little juvenile, but it helps me.
No, it sounds to me like you found a workaround. You've actually created a profitable practice out of having to overcome that Achilles heel. Right? So you've done what needed to happen for you. Now, we could take it to another step. You could get to the point where you don't actually have to set an alarm, that your alarm goes off in your head, which is kind of where I've gotten to most recently. If I have a really crucial appointment or something like that, I'll sometimes set an alarm, but I purposely only set one. And then usually what I do is I prepare the night before. Like, after COVID, we didn't have to go to so many places, right? You weren't going out of the house for the most part. So you had to walk down the hall to a computer, a Zoom call or something. But now that we're getting back out again, tomorrow I'm meeting with 2 clients in the morning and I'll need to be at their office, first thing in the morning. Well, I am going to prepare. I'll figure out what I'm going to wear tonight. I'll have any snacks or food or my tea or water. Everything is prepared and sitting by the door so that I don't have to think about it in the morning. Because like you, I'll find one more thing to do too. But that's kind of how I've learned to work around my one more thing syndrome. And so we all have, hacks, as you will, if you will. It's kind of like we find things that work for us because we want to honor our word and, and show up on time and do the work we're setting out to do with people. But I think it's kudos to you. You figured out a way to make it work for you. Now, if you're upset about how many times your alarm goes off, then we should talk about something else that we could solve that one with.
Exactly. Yeah. And and you talked about, finding your passion or the thing that just really lights you up or makes you happy. And this book I wrote, it's kind of like a beginner's guide. It has a really basic, this is how you figure out who you are, what you would like. But what is your method? How do you help people find that passion and distinguish it from learned behaviors or things that they think this is my mission because I'm so good at it, but they're not happy with it, or they're, like you said, exhausted?
Yeah. Well, I take people through a process. I most of my clients will work with me for at least a year, some longer, some shorter, but a year is a good uh, amount of time to be able to transform a lot of those mechanisms that are or are not working for you. Do you know? So I take them through a very methodical process, starting out with the profitable practice and the Achilles heel. I also have some other things tools that I utilize. One of them is 15-minute project mastery. I have people make a list of the things you could get done in 15 minutes if you had 15 extra minutes, because a lot of times people are late for appointments, or things happen and all of a sudden an appointment gets canceled and now you have some time. Well, most people just go to the automatic. They go check their email, they go to social media, they go to things that in my opinion are kind of the black holes of time and energy. They just suck you in. And then, even if you just go to say happy birthday to somebody on Facebook, 2 hours later, you could forget why you even came on, right?
That's true.
Because you're so caught up in other people's lives and the news and being connected and related to these people. So I forgot why I was going to tell you that. Oh, the 15-minute project. So if you had a list of things that you could get done in 15 minutes, like what's the thing you've been putting off most? What's that one thing you've been putting off most? How could you chunk that down? What would 15 minutes on that project do for you? And go after that instead of your email or instead of the social media. That when we're in the 9 to 5, the actual hours of working, you do just work. Don't do the social media unless it's on lunch or times when your blood sugar is so low you're not producing anything and you're cross-eyed. That's when maybe you could do that. Or better yet, that's a good time to go take a walk and actually get grounded in the earth and get back connected to your energy, that flow of energy, and then come back and you probably get several more hours of work, in. So those are some of the things that I do. I mean, literally there are over 60 practices that I've developed over the years of coaching with people. And I purposely did it in a way that wasn't cookie cutter. I can't tell you what's going to work for you until I know more about you. I need to know what the challenges are so that we can go after that. And then we together, my clients and I together, customize what kind of a system is going to work for them, what kind of a structure is going to work for them. So for example, I have one gentleman working with me right now who's an architect, and he's very visual, and he didn't realize that he used to know he was an artist before. He used to love to do art in addition to his more linear, drafting and whatnot for his architecture business. But so he's now started doing art. Bless you. I see it coming.
Yeah.
So he started doing art, but more importantly, he didn't know what structures were going to work for him, and he was dropping things out. So he tried a Google sheet and kept a list of all the kinds of things. And then he noticed he wasn't going back to that Google sheet. So, okay, that structure is not working for you then. So what kind of structure do you need? And he got one of those post-it, what are they called? Sticky flip charts. Do you know what I mean? And he wrote all of his most important projects, and he got it on the wall next to, in his office, so he can just turn and look, and it's right there for him. And he says he's checking things off like crazy and getting the list done. That would make me nuts, having anything on my wall. I couldn't do that, but I am a list person. I have lists on, all over the place, but then I pull them together. And another practice that I do that I think is very helpful is I notebook everything. So I have various kinds of notebooks that mean different things. This one happens to be for the development of my online practice that I had not, been getting off the ground like I'd wanted to. So I started to study it, and all of my notes for that are in that one notebook. So keeping your thoughts together on a particular topic is also powerful.
Yes, that is helpful to organize, because I do that too. I have notebooks everywhere. A lot of the younger people, they don't even know what it is to write something down, but I write everything down. And I have notebooks, I have different ways of organizing things. And everybody has to find their way, like you said.
Right.
Because for me, I saw somebody, I was on a get to know you call with someone, and I looked, and behind her on her wall, she must have had 70 little post-it stickies,
Oh, wow.
all like a whole square of them, just all next to each other with all different things on them. And I thought to myself, how does she even find the thing she's looking for? There, uh, even if you looked up there, which one would you focus on? There's just, but it was working for her. That's how she organized.
Right. Each person is completely unique. And for some people, that is just everything. It's like the perfect thing for them. And for those others like you're like, oh my God, that would make me cross-eyed, and I don't want things screaming at me, but for some people they need it screaming at them, and to her, it's probably very, very organized.
Mm.
I know people that do that and they have certain colors and they mean different things, and so it all works. It all works. It's just you have to find your rhythm. And then the kids, like you said, that don't necessarily know what a notebook is, I might disagree with you a little bit on that. I think many of the younger people don't necessarily handwrite. They're not scribes anymore.
Mhm.
But if somebody figures out that they remember more when they write something, because the part of your brain that writes the message is different than the part of your brain that reads the message. So you're actually communicating with yourself in a different way by doing the scribing. That's why handwritten notes can be good, and notebooks and things like that. If you're somebody who is way techie and tech is your thing, then notebooks will slow you down. It'll feel like it's just so arduous that it can't work for you. So both are right. It's not, maybe it's an age thing, I'm not certain, but mostly I find it's a unique personality quality that somebody is either a writer or they are not. And I do find that a lot of the people who are writers can have a lot of paper around them. And then when I start working with them, or when I used to with office organization, now I hire that done. But when somebody has a lot of papers around them and or notebooks that are full, notebooks that are like stacks of notebooks that are full, I will actually have them look at each one, and they will find they've done it all. They just it was like a security blanket that they were keeping to make sure that they hadn't dropped something through the cracks. But once they actually read every bit on there, and they and I tell people, if you have a lot of lists and you get through and it's already done, slash the page with a red pen so that that page can be ignored. You don't have to read the whole thing again. So, things like that you're looking for short cuts all along the way. Anyway.
Yeah. So what does it mean to you to live full out?
Well, live full out. I feel like I do live full out. I love my life. I love my business. I love my clients. I love my fun. I love to play pickleball and go paddle boarding. And most people don't get my age because I don't act my age. And it's because I believe in being a student of life for life. So there's always something to get you excited and to go look at what's new. I mean, even just living, oh my gosh, there's so many choices now. Just look at the social media. We have so many choices of social media that just that in itself is a whole education, So I'm a big devotee of personal development, looking for those blind spots that we all have. I believe we all have them. And I also believe you're perfect the way you are. So if you never look at them, you never look at them. It's okay. You'll still have a great life. I'm just, I love the sleuthing to go looking for how could I live an even richer life? How could I peel away a different veil or a layer that I don't know is there so that I can live that life even more self-expressed, as you say.
Mhm. Are there any books, courses, things that have really made a difference in your life, or some of the ones that you could recommend that you think, oh, this one really made a huge transformation for me?
Yeah, I would say I love just about anything by Jack Canfield. Jack Canfield is phenomenal. In fact, sometimes I'm reading him stuff and I'm his books. I'm like, I could have written this. This is my words, you know. So Jack Canfield's fabulous. And then one of the greatest books, several books recently. One is Atomic Habits. Oh my God, Atomic Habits is really powerful with teaching people how to create habits where you already have habits, connect them together so that you have a habit in an area where you don't now have it. So
Mhm.
really, really easy, simple stuff, but very, very powerful. I love that book. I'm also passionate about The Gap and the Gain and Who Not How. I'm drawing a blank on the authors. I should know that off the back of my hand as I read them and recommend them all the time. It's a pair of guys and really phenomenal, but you can get it. They're both books by those same authors. So if you Google those books or go to Amazon, you'll find them. Really, what I loved about The Gap and the Gain is learning to put your attention on what's right in life rather than where you're losing and where, you know, where you're having a gap, do you know?
Mhm.
And then the other piece, the who not how, is that when we decide we're going to take on some big undertaking, you shouldn't be asking how I should do this. The question should be who should do this, and it's likely not you.
Mhm.
As one of my coaches had said to me years ago, if it's not my genius, it's not my job. So you want to find what your genius is and just do that, and find anybody and everybody to do everything else.
Mhm.
And that's going to make your life more enjoyable because you're not doing a lot of that stuff then that you don't really want to do.
I so agree on that. Delegate or cooperate or
Yeah,
collaborate.
right. People can do trades. People can do, you know, any number of things, or find somebody to do something for somebody. While, you know, like, what do you need? What do I need? That kind of thing. And if you don't have the budget for it, and if you have the budget, hire them. Just hire a team. And
Mhm.
you can find almost any service for almost any price anymore. Do you know, there's so many online apps and things like that, whether it's Fiverr or I can't think of the other ones, but uh,
Upwork.
sorry, yeah,
Upwork, I think, is one of
Upwork,
the
yeah,
things.
yeah. So there's a lot of things, places where you can find people who will do what you want done, you
Mhm.
know, for the price you're willing to pay.
Yeah,
So,
that is so true. Just before we got on tonight, I was talking to a company that does answering services because I'm trying to automate everything. And so it's like, okay, I can't answer the phone all day long. So,
right,
I'll let them answer it.
right, right,
Makes life so much easier when you can
absolutely.
delegate or have a team, like you said.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and then what about how do we fit our hobbies into our work day? So we want to be productive, we want to be successful in our careers and financially successful, but then, we want that other fun thing like pickleball, or for me it's art. I like doing art and I like to exercise a lot. I like to go to the pool or the beach. So how do we fit those things in and not feel guilty and actually enjoy them while we're doing them?
Well, the guilt is a whole different subject. That's like that's another podcast actually. But you know, what happens with my clients is when you start to build this structure around doing what is your key area, like your sweet spot, and you're avoiding or creating workarounds around the things that you don't, you know, that were derailing you. And then you also start putting into practice some of these different 60 practices that I've talked about utilizing your time to the maximum. You're going to find that you're doing a lot more and getting more done The other piece of this, and this is going to sound like I'm not even answering your question because it's going to sound so far in the other direction. The other piece of it is you need to get much more attentive to paying attention to what your successes are. Because we are so in the habit of going on to the next thing, 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 that we don't actually take time to digest and register that we have accomplished something.
Mhm.
So, so paying attention and keeping a list of your successes or your accomplishments will actually have you have less guilt and have more time to go play and do the things you want to do. Because you're going to say, oh, I did get this done. And the truth is, what do they say, that all work and no play makes you a dull person, or, that kind of thing. And every one of us thinks we can't slow down because the world has gotten so fast. But in a way, it's a little bit like our attention is on pursuing happiness as opposed to actually experiencing happiness. It's actually in the Constitution. It's actually in, I think it's the Constitution. Anyway.
Yes, it is. The pursuit of happiness.
Right. The pursuit of happiness. They don't say the unabashed full expression of happiness. They say the pursuit of happiness. And in America, in particular, we are always pursuing something, and it's usually just out of reach, right? It's not quite there. And so paying attention to what would make you happy, and then finding a way to even spend 15, 20 minutes to do it. Like if you put it on the calendar, like for example, I have 3 girlfriends who wanted to play pickleball together, and they wanted a fourth. So they called me and they said, will you play? I said, sure. When are you going to play? Mondays. What time Monday? And so everybody had to coordinate their work schedule to be able to do this. And we would play from 11 to 1. So it was a long lunch hour. And, we would rendezvous at the court. It was a blast. We got exercise. We didn't have to do other exercise that day. And then we went back to work. So you worked beforehand. You got as efficient as you could beforehand because you knew that calendar appointment was on the books. You could also mix business and pleasure. If you want to go golfing, take a client with you. You want to go do work while you're doing your fun things as well, or find a way to incorporate them together. That's another way to do it and not feel guilty. But the biggest thing is you got to give yourself permission to live this life, because no one's going to do it for you. You have to do it. You have to give yourself permission and go have that fun. Like let yourself experience that enjoyment. Otherwise, life gets pretty dull.
It does. When you're just working all the time, it gets very dull and exhausting. Even if you like what you're doing,
right?
You're working too much. It just gets exhausting.
I agree.
Everyone needs a break, even if it's, 30 minutes of alone time to just relax and think, or just be.
Right. They've also proven, I can't remember what the study was, but they've proven that if you physically move and do some form of exercise every day, you're going to be way more productive. You're going to get more done during the time that you're in your office if you take a break and go do exercise and actually get that, your brain stimulated by using your body. So these are a lot of contrary beliefs that are not mainstream. We inherited all of these different belief structures from the time we're born, but it may not be the truth. I mean, if you go to Europe, I understand it, and you go to a party in Europe, they don't ask you like we do the first thing you walk in the door and say, what do you do? That's what we ask at our parties, right? In Europe, it's all about what life are you enjoying? How is, nobody talks about their career, or if they do, it's totally secondary or tertiary. It's not forefront. It's not the first thing we talk about. So part of it is we got to figure out a way to disengage from old mentality that's no longer serving us. And that has to do with more of those finding those blind spots.
That makes sense. So when you talked about Europe, it reminded me when I was in Europe, I went and visited a small town in Austria, and there were local stores nearby, and all the stores closed for 3 hours in the middle of the day.
Right.
I mean, they went home, they ate their lunch and took a nap or whatever it is they did, and then
Right,
they came back to work. But
right.
every day they did that.
Mhm. Yep, it's a different mentality. Different mentality. We could stand to absorb and ascribe to some of their way of doing things.
That is for sure. So just a personal question, what gives you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life right now?
Well, most fulfillment and happiness in my life. I really do love everything that I do. So I love working with my clients. I really am enjoying the opportunity to be with family and my 92-year-old mother. Do you know, I consider it such a gift. Do you know? So I go to see her every 4 to 6 weeks. She's in another state. So I go to see her every 4 to 6 weeks and just love our time together. Do you know? And it's not like we do anything special or we don't go anywhere even. We just be together.
Mhm.
And because I look at it, time is fleeting and it's limited. And who knows how long we're going to have together. And it could be me that goes before her, but you expect that it's going to be her, but that's not the way life works,
Mhm.
And so for me, it's enjoying those relationships. And I have some wonderful, wonderful friends, and so I love just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I miss you. I just want to talk to you. I did it with a friend just this morning. And in fact, we talked for almost an hour, and I would not have done that in the middle of a work day. But it was like she was in my mind so much. I thought I need to talk to this friend, and
Mhm.
and it was luscious. It was a luscious conversation, one of those just delicious, delicious conversation with a friend.
Ah, that is amazing and wonderful.
Yeah.
So, if people wanted to contact you, get a hold of you, why don't you tell us about, where they can contact you and any programs or how they can work with you?
Okay, great. Well, my website is www.equinoxassociates.com. And I know that's a funny name, so I'll spell it. It's EQUINOX, and then associates spelled out completely and with an S on the end.com. So you can get me through that for certain. And it's Kathleen at Equinox Associates if you want to email me. And I'm developing a program right now called the Time Alchemy Formula to help people to get control of their time and really turn things around and transform time forever. You're never going to have an issue with time like you used to after you do this program. And so that's one of the things I'm working on right now. And I also work one-on-one with people, either in one-on-one coaching with people, and we meet every other week. And so if you want to do that, you can go to actually there's another website, meetwithkathleen.com is my calendar. So you can schedule a conversation with me if you want to do that. And then I guess that's it. The one other thing I do is I work with small manufacturers. And so I have several clients who have, anywhere from 15 to 30 employees, and they want to make sure that their employees have that well-rounded life, and they're most productive, but they're also most balanced and have that life that works for them because they know their people aren't going to burn out then. So, if that's something that your people have and are interested in me working with their team, I can do that as well. So
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for
thank you for
all your
having me.
contributions and discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really a delight. Thank you so much for having me. Loved being here.
Yeah, so I have
Love
one
your
last
attitude on
question.
life.
Oh, thank you. I have one last question before we finish.
Okay.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
Well, it may not be for everybody, but I will say the best advice for me is go on a mission to find your blind spots, because you're going to live the best life you can if you get the obstacles out of the way that you don't even know are there. And there's so many of them that you can be humming along. And if you wonder why you're not getting to the success you are, it might be that there's one of those things playing underneath, derailing you, and you don't even know you're doing it to yourself. So go on a mission to find where your blind spots are, and it will be amazing what you can transform in, a snap.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Kathleen.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kimberly.
Yep. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, great.